All right, good evening, everyone. Let's call the Plan Commission to order. Start with a roll call.
Mayor Devine. Here. Amanda Noah.
Here.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
John Kakazin.
Yes.
Eric Torkelson.
Here.
Ryan Frank.
Here.
David Rushka.
Here.
Alternate Plan Commissioner. Welcome. So that's 6 Plan Commissioners present and the mayor. We have a quorum.
All right.
So moved.
Item C will be approval of the minutes from July 24th. A motion to approve
Second.
in a second. Any amendments or adjustments, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We will move to item D, new and previous matters. Item 2 is Cream City Print Lounge.
A new planner, Tony Guerin, is going to be presenting Cream City Print Lounge. So,
Dive right in.
All right, so our special use permit here for Cream City Print Lounge, they are an instructor-led print studio, so very similar to paint and sip sort of workshops, if you're familiar with that. They, those types of businesses will have groups come together and paint on canvas and then offer complimentary wine and beer. But this business in particular, instead of canvas, they're going to use screen printing, so they'll be printing onto wearable t-shirts and tote bags, for example. They are a winner of a recent entrepreneurship award through the downtown bid, but due to not being able to find a suitable space in the downtown area, they moved over to, they're looking to move into 8010 West National Avenue. So the special use permit would be for them to ultimately allow over 15 people in their space and offer complimentary wine and beer. So they are looking to get started with as just a retail space and a class for under 15 people, but they hope to build out the space so that once they are able to offer classes to 15 or more people, then the special use permit would go into effect. Here is exterior view of the building, the space where they will be moving into. And staff recommends approval for the application for special use permit.
I just had a
Motion and a second, Eric.
just for like enhanced streetscaping, would there be a possibility of like adding benches, any flower planters that, you know?
yes, but not until next year.
That portion of National Avenue is
Torn
gonna be
up.
improved, similar to,
Yeah.
what has happened, already.
Mhm.
It's gonna be extending down to that area, so at that time, it will have the bike lanes and the bike boxes and the trash cans and the recycling bins and all the things we wanna see.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Good. Ask.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We will now go on to items 3A and 3B.
So this is looking at the WA Community Child Care LLC. They are looking to relocate from their existing building, their existing space in the old Allis Chalmers office building that's being demolished as part of the larger West Quarter Development Project. And so they'd be moving from that building to this location. They are a licensed educational child care facility for up to 228 children with operations Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The zoning of this building is C3, and so daycare centers are especially used there, and there'll be a public hearing on this on September 3rd. So looking at the interior, initially they are proposing to occupy, is this still accurate? They will be occupying half of the building. And then ultimately, they have a second location as well, and they would move that second location to this building to occupy the remaining portion of the first floor, with the exception of the tenant space that's already there, occupied by Lulu May. Altogether, it would be about 8,371 square feet, and they'll have rooms separated by age, changing stations, nursing rooms, kitchen, office space, staff room. And then looking at the exterior, there's really only, the site's in pretty good condition. They have one major proposed change, which is to add a play area for the children. Initially, when they submitted their concepts, they had two ideas. One, having the playground be in the front area, which is currently a courtyard, or redoing the parking lot and having it in the rear of the building. Staff has encouraged them to move towards putting it in the rear of the building, and that's the current plan. So one of our recommendations is just to resubmit these plans to only show it in the rear portion. Some additional recommendations that we have come to based on looking at this property is that in a previous amendment to the condominium declaration, there was a statement saying that the northeast corner of this property would be developed into a parking lot at the time that a tenant leased the space. And so Lula has been in there for a while, but the parking lot has not been developed, so we'd like to see that be included on the plans. And additionally, the building should have canopies and awnings on it based on its approved plan. And so we'd like to see those get put in place as well. And looking at the parking, so the development agreement calls for 32 public parking spaces. With the proposed playground in the rear, it reduces that to 24. But with the improved parking lot in the northeast corner, it would bring us up to about 44 stalls, assuming the plan stays the same. So staff does recommend approval subject to the items that we talked about. And one other thing that we discussed with them, number 4, is just getting a written description from them about any efforts that they've made to engage with the people who live in that building. And, you know, if there's any concerns, what they're doing to address those concerns. And there are representatives here from the daycare if you guys have questions for me or for them.
That wraps it up. Any questions? Wayne?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On pages 4 and 5, about on page 4, number 1, that is that something has not been completed. Top of page 5, these features have not been added. Does this suggest that we've got a problem here, that things are not done as they are committed to? What does that suggest to you?
Well, I think, so the parking lot, I'm not entirely sure. That's more of a development agreement issue, so on planning, we haven't really been involved too much in that, but now this is kind of an opportunity for us to have a little more influence over getting that part completed. And I think that because so that agreement was made that once a retailer was occupying the first floor, they would do that build out. Lula May is a pretty small operation, and so it didn't necessarily require any extra need for parking based on what that business is. So I'm guessing that may be part of why it didn't get built out, because there isn't, the whole first floor is not filled with tenants. It's just the one space. So I agree it should have happened, but I'm not concerned about it moving forward.
And moving on to the other one, in February of 2017, again, before the Plan Commission, a commitment was made and nothing has happened. And Steve, I think this is problematic. What assurance do we have that things will be done as they are committed to?
Well, we have an owner who's leasing to a tenant who wants to move in, and they need occupancy permits, and they have to go through a special use process. And in this case, those things are going to be cemented within the special use permit resolution, as well as before they can occupy the building, we need some assurance that those awnings are going to go up onto the building. And typically, there is a surety bond or letter of credit that the city would require, which is in your conditions here. Could include that as one of the, if it's not done, we have a bond to cover that, the installation. But, and I guess I can't speak to like Katie said, the development agreement or why the parking didn't go in, but, certainly there's a good portion of that lower commercial space that's unoccupied right now. There's only one commercial tenant, a very small salon that's in that space right now, and adding all the additional 20 or so parking spaces when that tenant moved in probably didn't make a lot of sense because they don't need that much parking. But now as the rest of that commercial space fills up, and if it fills up, that's when it should kick in and be installed. That's what we're recommending. So.
Any other questions? If there's it's the pleasure of the commission, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to item 4.
Then we have, is anyone here in the audience? I don't see anyone representing the, this item. Could we press ahead to
Yep.
an item where someone is here for it?
Item 5, Bell Properties.
I don't think anyone's here for that either, so maybe we'll come back to that. Item 6, Kevin Donnelly.
Donnelly Chiropractic.
Kevin, you're welcome to come up and join us, or however you
You can
wish.
sit at the big kids table.
Yeah.
You can sit at the big kid table. Who's doing that one? Cole?
Cole,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
All right, so what we have, item number 6 is a agenda item for proposed exterior improvements to Donnelly Chiropractic, which is located 7301 West National Avenue, and we have the owner here with us, Kevin Donnelly, and he has proposed that he wants to basically refresh the exterior of the building. It's going to be replacing a lot of surfaces. Some rotten, or I should say some deteriorated wood features on the building that are going to be replaced with awning, aluminum awning. Removal of existing plants and replacing them with perennials. On the east side of the building, there's a landscape timbers that are going to be taken out and replaced with landscaping stone. As well, on the west side of the building, going to do the same thing, remove existing plants and installing landscaping stone on that side as well. And as I said, they're going to be replacing windows front of the building, east side, west side, north side of the building. Brick areas that have been damaged are going to be nipped and tucked, or rebuilt and tuck pointed, and they'll be painted back to the existing color. What else do we have? There will be lighting, additional lighting installed on the front of the building up above the, or below the sign right here. There's going to be gooseneck lighting, 3 of them to kind of highlight the building itself. And then you're going to have lights over, or installed under the overhang right here. Wooden steps are going to be replaced. The molding right here is going to be replaced and wrapped with aluminum. So we recommend approval, subject to the following conditions. Getting updated plans to us, kind of go into more detail of the scope of work required. Landscaping details for the east and west sides of the facility on the revised plans, and a schedule for implementing these changes so we can kind of monitor the progress.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing there is no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Excuse me, motion carries. Thanks. Move on to, is anyone here from item 7, People's Bank?
Yeah, Mr. Nelson Luna is here. He's the architect and project manager for Redmond Group, who's working with People's Bank on the renovation. The bank's about 1 acre in size. It's located at 107th and National Avenue. And it's formerly a, I believe, a PNC or similar type of drive-through bank. They've been gone for a little while, but People's Bank has offered to purchase the property, and I believe they do purchase the property right now. And they're proposing some changes in terms of the overall site and landscaping, as well as relocating some brick columns underneath the canopy overhang. There's also a freestanding ATM machine on the east side of the site, which is going to be demolished, and there'll be some landscaping in that general area that's going to be installed in its place. So, just looking at some of the aerial views, this is National Avenue to the left-hand side of the slide, and the drive-through area, and the existing ATM area here. So this is going to be demolished, and the columns, existing brick columns underneath the canopy on the west side of the building are going to be relocated, or removed and relocated just slightly east, and they'll be replicated in style with brick, similar base and brick features here. Just moved inward a little bit closer to the building to make the drive-through area a little bit more driver-friendly and user-friendly, with ATM being installed actually underneath the canopy area as well. Taking a closer look at some of the overall site view, the parking for the site is primarily behind the building, but there are 10 stalls on the east side of the building. This is that ATM location that's going away. And what's been presented to you in your staff report was indicating that staff was asking for an additional 2 feet of landscaping to widen this landscaping area here. The applicant has indicated that they would like to keep it at this width, but they're willing to incorporate more trees within the landscape area. Actually, a lot of the trees in the center, a lot of the landscaping in the center here is lower growing shrubs, bushes. The trees are sort of bookends on this end here and this end here. And so staff is willing to compromise. If not widening this landscape area an additional 2 feet, then staff is recommending infill trees and landscaping in the center area, and that would probably be comprised of about 3 trees, ornamental variety trees, and that would give a more continuous look of landscaped elevation along that east property line, shared with another bank just to the east. Aside from that, there's just going to be some infill landscaping on the site to replicate and replenish what's already there, freshen it up. So staff is overall pleased that we have a new property owner and bringing this bank back online. Our conditions of approval are in the staff report, but I just want to call your attention to the staff amended recommendation as amended here in bold. We're recommending that, the proposed landscaping area on the east side of the site, we were recommending it be widened to allow for, it still would allow for vehicle access, even if it were widened, or to compromise with the bank, additional tree infill being indicated on a revised plan. So we're comfortable with, striking this A here and just amending it to include additional infill trees being noted. We would still want, dimensions being provided on the site plan with respect to, the landscaping bed areas and the specific types of tree plantings that would be placed within that area in a curb detail. And aside from that, though, we're recommending approval as amended.
Wade?
A question for the applicant. You're the representative, right?
Yes.
Let's see here. It's one thing to agree, and I believe you and Steve represents that you do agree with the city regarding the landscaping. The key is really maintaining landscaping. And given the investment that's being made, I would hope that would be the case, that the landscaping would be maintained.
Yes, that will be the owner's responsibility to maintain it.
pass that message on if you would, please.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, and currently there are a few shrubs on the west side of the building that are in bad shape, that they will also be replaced.
And when do you expect construction to begin?
We will, I believe, we are planning to submit for permitting next month, so I would guess sometime of October.
Thank you. I would move approval.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll jump to item 8.
All right, we have Ms. Tracy Greer here representing Spirit Halloween. She is seeking a variance to the temporary sign code. So Spirit Halloween is a pop-up costume and decoration store. They will be occupying the former Michael's space for the couple of months leading up to Halloween, and they are seeking to place 3 different signs, which is one more than the approved in the temporary sign code. So one of the signs will go up on the building facade, and 2 of them will go on either side of the monument. And the other variance is to extend the maximum number of days from 30 days to 48 days. Staff approves this recommendation.
Any questions?
How long will, excuse me, how long will this be in existence? This,
Halloween store?
just until Halloween?
Until November 2nd.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move approval.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Congrats.
Thank you.
Go to 4.
Yeah. We'll go back to item 4. Yep.
Alright, number 4 is the proposed, an existing building at 54th, just south of Burnham Street. It's a 18,000 square foot building on a smaller site, a 10,000 square foot site. The gross floor area is a 2-story building, so it occupies more space than the site has in terms of just general surface area. Each floor is roughly about 9,000 square feet. The Ideal Express is a shipping business, primarily though warehouse storage, wholesale storage, and they're proposing some exterior facade improvements to the building. The property is zoned manufacturing, and the property owners have some, aside from the shipping and storage business, they're also taking a look at perhaps other ideas which haven't really come forth yet. So this is primarily just a site landscaping and architectural review this evening. Any use that's not necessarily permitted within our code would, as a special use, for instance, would have to come back to the Plan Commission and Common Council in the future. This is purely just an exterior review of the current conditions of the property. This is a view from 54th Street, and as you can see, the windows in the south elevation are covered over with a plastic covering, and also on the east elevation of the building, there's a lot of glass block and some smaller window openings. The same is generally consistent on the west side of the building and the north side of the building, so it doesn't really change too much. It's sort of the theme all around. The building was built in 1947. Probably hasn't changed much since that time, except for maybe some paint colors and some maintenance issues. But the building has been hit and damaged by trucks, perhaps rounding this corner a little too tight. The owners are interested in infilling some of these openings with new garage doors, new entry and exit doors to the building. They're going to be adding a second floor balcony and staircase to the back side of the building. This is the view from the alley. These existing hoists would remain in place over here and here. They're going to be proposing to repaint the building, tuck point, repair damaged sections of wall. Also, they're proposing to remove the coverings from the windows and infill with cement block. Staff's concern is that primarily in the areas of infilling windows with block, is that you lose the curb appeal and the building just becomes one giant cement block cube. We'd rather have some articulation, some interest to the building. Natural light's also a good thing for internal uses, so the owners are looking at a proposal to actually open up various windows on the building, replacing glass block with actually transparent windows on the storefront, as well as removing, updating the plan to include shop windows, or repairing shop windows that are underneath these plastic window coverings on the west and south sides of the building. Across the street, you may remember that there was formerly a warehouse with boarded up windows across the street. A self-storage business moved in, and even though it's storage, doesn't mean you can't have windows. So this is a self-storage business with transparent glass. I guess you can see through the glass, so you can see that there is a wall here, but it is separated. There's a little depth between the window and the functions within the building, and it's important. It does add more curb appeal, and it does allow for some transaction between inside and out versus just a solid wall. So staff feels it's important to take a look at key elevations on this building, and instead of just infilling with block, let's look at some other options for glass. And the owners are willing to do that. They're just looking at the costs of what that's gonna take. They're also proposing some landscape updates. There's not too many opportunities to do so in a building like this, given the lack of open ground, open space. But there are some. There's an existing foundation planting area in front of the building on the east side facing 54th, and they're proposing some smaller shrubs and plantings in front of the building. So our recommendation is stated in the staff report, but we are recommending approval. They have an architect, and the owners are eager to make the investment, I think, to put into this building. Just purely on their proposal alone, they're willing to spend, at least in their proposal indicated, $70,000. We're going to see where the costs come back, but we are recommending windows be installed on elevations of the building. With Plan Commission's permission, if you allow us to work with them to determine where those windows are going to be, we're recommending absolutely they should be on the front face of the building to replace that glass block near that entrance and replace that with a transparent window. And then also on the south elevation and west elevation, we feel that windows should be installed on those second floor elevations. Aside from that, the other items on here are basically just additional details being noted with respect to refuse, paint color, lighting, if any. So if there's any questions or comments.
Mr. Mayor, Steve, I'm pleased to hear that the applicant is willing to work with you regarding the windows and getting some light in this and opening it up. What if the end result is they come back and say we can't afford to do it?
Then we come back to the Plan Commission, we come back to the commission to determine what can be done and why, let's take a look at the expense, the costs, and.
Well, I certainly agree that you should continue to work with them and keep us informed. Move approval.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Item 4 is passed, and we will take up item 5.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
since
Wayne.
Number 5, Steve and his team are recommending denial to give the applicant and the Plan Commission an opportunity to further work through whatever the obstacles are. I would just move forward and recommend that we deny.
I actually have an alternate recommendation.
Okay.
So, here, I'll just go through this real quick. So, this is on South 60th Street, and the proposal that they submitted to do facade improvements were pretty minimal, simply replacing some of the windows and then replacing the siding. And when it comes to trying to revitalize this block, we'd really like to see the investment be a little bit greater than that. That kind of improvement seems a little bit like a Band-Aid rather than a real upgrade. And so our concept is that we'd really like to see. So this was the proposal that was submitted. But what we really like to see is so that the picture on the top right is an old drawing that we found in our property file. But you can see that the storefront windows are much larger. They curve inward towards the entryway and kind of match in the lower left picture what's already happening on that block with similar buildings. And so we did send the applicant, the former John Shoe Service as a model to say, this is the kind of thing that Plan Commission is going to be looking for when it comes to really giving this facade a good improvement, improving that the brick and opening up that storefront. So, we do have commercial facade improvement grants available through our economic development team. And we would like to see the applicant work with them to maybe come up with a better proposal. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get in contact with her. We've been playing a little bit of phone tag. So I was hoping that I would hear from her before this meeting to kind of get a sense of if she is willing to take that approach, or if that's a game changer and makes it a no-go kind of a situation. So because we don't know the answer to that question, we'd actually like to hold this item until we can talk with her. And then if she is open to working with our economic development team, then we can come back with a revised version of this proposal, rather than having her, submit a brand new application.
And that's, Wayne, you're not wrong to, thank you, for the support. We did recommend denial, but just in the interest of speaking with Katie more recently, as she hasn't been able to get a hold of her, and unfortunately she's not here tonight to represent herself, so perhaps it's the best idea to hold it until
I'll
such
make a
time.
motion to hold.
I'll second that.
Thanks.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Happy
Anyone
Labor Day.
opposed? The item is held. Before we adjourn, just, some of you probably know, but good news, bad news. Erin Hearn was appointed the administrator for Mineral Point, Wisconsin. So she is going to be moving, obviously not commuting, but she's going to be stepping away from the Plan Commission and the other committees that she's on. So she will be missed.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you all met,
We
I
have.
assume? Okay. So I don't know how long you planned on being an alternate, but we now have an opening. Since you've done so well in your meeting. If you're interested in full-time.
Sure.
Okay. It's the launching ground. Brian
I know, I
started
was just gonna
out.
say, it took him one time, it took me like 8.
I know. You can learn a lot from this guy.
I'm a fast mover.
That's right.
Apparently so.
Yeah, quick study. So then we'll have our alternates will be back open again, so if you know anybody that might be interested. I've got a couple applications I haven't looked at yet, but, and then any other news before we adjourn?
Anything
You
else?
got introduced as well?
Yeah,
No, I
Tony,
see.
our new planner, Tony. So, just trying to think. I'm kind of, no,
Okay.
not right now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.